Just a quick on American Experiment. We are Minnesota's conservative think tank. We are working to create policy on education, healthcare, taxes, budget, you name it, public safety, fraud, and all types of stuff across Minnesota with one purpose, a little more than one purpose. It is to promote policies that promote limited government, lower taxes, less regulations, personal responsibility, government accountability. So, am I in the right place here? Good. Now, we are we've been around for more than 35 years, and there's been a lot of focus on the Twin Cities for most of it, but now the organization in the last 5-6 years has recognized that we've got to be an organization for the entire state, and that is why I am here. But before I really get into American Experiment, I want to be very clear about one thing. We are a nonpartisan organization. It is not our job to participate in elections. And in fact, we can't participate in elections. That's your job. It's the job of the Democrats, or the Libertarians, whoever, to recruit, endorse, and elect your candidates. It's our job to make sure that our candidates and our elected officials have the policies on all those things that I mentioned when they're in the state legislature, the school board, the city councils, the county commission. So before I really get into American Experiment, I'm going to take off my American Experiment hat and give you a little bit of my background, because there's a whole lot of Republican in my background. So I'm from Minnesota. I went to college in Texas. I took a year off before I went to law school at the University of Minnesota. So this was 1990, and I got my first real job. And it was working for a campaign for the 1990 Republican-endorsed candidate for governor. Does anybody know who the Minnesota-endorsed candidate for governor was in 1990? What? No? No? Anyway? No. He was the person on the ballot. He got defeated in the primary, but he won the general election because the Republican-endorsed candidate was John Grunseth. Yeah, remember that? That campaign was so interesting that they wrote a book about it. There's a book about that, and you can look in that book, and I'm in the staff picture. Well, for those of you who know, or want some Minnesota history, go back and look at that race. He withdrew from the race 10 days before the election. Yeah. And Arnie Carlson took his place on the ballot and beat two-term incumbent Governor Rudy Burbidge. It was pretty amazing. So that didn't go very well for John Grunseth. But what it did for Mike Amery was teach him about the Republican Party in Minnesota and how to participate. So when I started law school at the University of Minnesota in 1992, actually 1991, I knew that I could join college Republicans, I could join young Republicans, and I did. But what I also knew, because of the campaign experiences, that I needed to be participating in my BPOU, which was Southeast Northeast Minneapolis. You can't win an election there as a Republican today. You can't win one. You couldn't win one back then. But in the summer of 1992, I went to a regular meeting. There were 13 or 14 people there, and I specifically remember the chair of the district saying, "Our secretary, Mary Helen Bougie, will be late." Specifically remember that. Mary Helen Bougie will be late. 10 minutes later, Mary Helen Bougie walked into the room, and my jaw hit the floor. And I said to myself, who is that? We've now been married for more than 30 years. So yes, I met my wife at a BPOU meeting just like this. So if that's what you're looking for in your participation in the Republican Party. So I went through law school. I hooked my way into the best guy to hook it to in the early 1990s, Rod Grams. Worked his congressional race in 1992, his U.S. Senate race in 94, and then my young wife and I moved to Washington, D.C., where I was on Senator Graham's staff for a couple of years. We didn't like Washington. It was crowded, it was expensive, it was busy, so we came back home. And I worked for Hennepin County for a while. Then I got a job with a trade association called the American Academy of Neurology. And I was doing federal affairs for America's neurologists from a trade association based in St. Paul, now Minneapolis. And I quickly realized that if I was really going to be effective at that job, I probably needed to be in Washington, D.C. So in 2005, I moved my wife, my 3-year-old, and my 7-month-old out to Washington. So that's where I raised my kid. I was a lobbyist on Capitol Hill for many, many years. In my career, I took a job with a defense contractor, and then COVID hit. As I mentioned, I'm an attorney. Well, after a year of COVID and working for a defense contractor, my wife looked at me and said, "You're not a lobbyist on Capitol Hill anymore. You work in our basement. Our parents are getting older back home in Minnesota. Can we go home?" And that's what we did. So we came back in 2021. I did the defense contractor for a few years, but then 2024, I decided I wanted to get back involved. I had jumped right back in Wright County Republicans. I'm a state central delegate from Wright County and a state convention delegate. So I'd gotten involved in the volunteer aspects of it, but I was like, no, I want to be in the conservative movement. Sure enough, God put Director of Greater Minnesota Outreach right in front of me and said, that's what you're going to do. So that's what I'm doing. So a little bit over back to American Experiment. We have 5 Greater Minnesota chapters. We have Rochester, Mankato, Duluth, St. Cloud, and West Central. West Central, we have had a board turnover. The people who created it, the volunteers in this area, Alexandria, Perham, Detroit Lakes, they've turned over, and now we have completely new board members. And 2 of them are here, and 1 of them might be joining us. So Kelly Jansen Thielen and Randy Chapin are on our board, and is Mark Giddings here? There's Mark right there. He's coming to our next meeting, which is Wednesday in Fergus Falls at Outstate Brewing at 5 p.m. If you are interested, after my talk, in joining the board of American Experiment for our West Central chapter, we would love to have you. Just send me a message, let me know you're showing up, or just show up and get involved. In this last year, we had a great year. We just had a Christmas party or Thanksgiving party up at Thumper Pond. But we had a couple other programs. We had an energy program, and then we also had Michelle Fishbach on March 20th. One of the few Republican town hall meeting type things that occurred from the Republican caucus. We had about 150 people in the room, and we had 150 protesters outside. So so we're doing good things, but we want to grow more, we want to expand more. So I mentioned that we are a policy organization, so we are going all over the place. This is all of the places in Greater Minnesota that I did speaking engagements at, all over the place. And in the Red Stars, this is where we actually did events in 2025. So we interacted with thousands of Minnesotans at these events. What I really want to do, though, is talk about policy, and you can't get away from it now. It's the fraud. The fraud is unbelievable. So this is a little thing we've done, land of 10,000 frauds. But what you also have in front of you, and I have more up here, is our most recent magazine. It's actually being put to bed probably this next week or the week after with our next issue. But what perfect timing with the explosion on the federal level of the fraud in late November. Well, I'm going to get to this, but this is not new. This is our information that we put this out in October, November, something like that. So we are right on track with this, but now the nation is waking up to this. So here's the latest. So we've got Joe Thompson, the assistant U.S. attorney, who has called our fraud situation in Minnesota vast, staggering, unbelievable, estimating that it could be up to $9 billion now. This was, anybody ever been to Philadelphia? Did you think about ripping off the state of Pennsylvania by setting up a housing assistance program or an autism center? Well, that's what people in Philadelphia did. They're coming to Minnesota because it's easy target. So we got tourism fraud. We've got then President Trump and Elon Musk finally calling it out. I'll talk about the Twitter messages. So growing interest. And then of course we've got Nick Shirley going around to the daycares that don't have any children at them. Just amazing. So that's the latest. But as I was mentioning, and yesterday at the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Reps Rarick, Robbins, and Walter Hudson. Walter Hudson is my state representative, so I was so proud of him. I don't know if you watched it, but he was just firing back at one of those squad members. I won't play your game. So I sent him a text today just congratulating him on that. So that was awesome. And if you take a look at the guy in the back, to the left of Walter Hudson, well, American Experiment was mentioned at this about 6 or 7 times because of all of the research and all that we've done, and most of it has been done by Bill Glahn, who is the gentleman on the other side of Walter Hudson there. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the stuff that Bill has been doing. So as I mentioned, this is not new. American Experiment, Alpha News, many others have been talking about this. It goes back to 2009. 2015 was the first kind of feeding our future type fraud, and then feeding our future. There have been 50 convictions beginning in June of 2024. I mean, that's a long time ago for it suddenly to be, oh, there's a big fraud problem in Minnesota. No, there's been a big fraud problem in Minnesota for a long time. We even testified before the House Fraud Committee in March of 2025, laying out all the things that we found because Bill Glahn created a scandal tracker. And you can go and see this on our website. The numbers aren't great because what he's doing in these numbers is using the actual data that he can obtain. He doesn't have the same access to the data that, say, Assistant Attorney Joe Thompson does, who's saying it's 9 billion. But we're at a minimum low range of 550 million and a high range of 1.2 billion. But we know it's vastly more than that. But if you take a look at all these things, it's been going on forever. Feeding our future, child care assistance, autism centers, housing stabilization. The list of the dollars goes on and on and on. So, to talk about things that American Experiment,
PMAP is going to be the biggest fraud, and that started in 2005 by a guy by the name of Godfrey, and the estimates are more like 18 billion.
Yeah. So we're going to keep
But they haven't
digging.
touched that yet. They're protecting it.
Unbelievable.
You know, they shut down 14 of the 15. The 15th one is where there's real big dollars.
Okay. So moving on, what we got is a situation. We've done a lot of good work and we've identified a lot of great stuff, but one thing that I really want to talk about in particular is Keith Ellison. Here's Keith, Attorney General, celebrating on Election Day when his son was elected to the Minneapolis City Council, and he's celebrating with their Somali friends. So what happened is Bill Glahn, as I showed you in the picture, he started following all this Feeding Our Future. He spent hours and hours and hours in the courtroom and watching these convictions and reporting on them. One day he got a tip. He got a tip that the defense had put forward a tape and that he could listen to. If he did a Freedom of Information Data Practices Act, he could get the tapes. So he decided to start listening to these tapes. And there was an hour-long tape, and Keith Ellison is on the tape with the fraudsters. And these fraudsters would later donate to his campaign and to his son's campaign. That's our attorney general, talking to people who are ripping off our state. Now, he doesn't necessarily know at that point who they are and what they've done, and then he later gives back the money once we expose him for this. And you know, a lot of the problem, that's not what I want. A lot of the problem is our mainline media, like the Minnesota Star Tribune, won't report it. They won't report it. And it's up to American Experiment, Alpha News, and other organizations to try to get the information out. Well, fortunately, that's changed a bit now. But when this tape came out, the Star Tribune had to report it. And they approached him, and it says, GOP scrutinizes Keith Ellison meeting with Feeding Our Future figures before FBI raids. Well, that isn't really correct. That was American Experiment that scrutinized Keith Ellison on that. So that is one of our great things. So we sent out a tweet. We sent out a tweet on April of 2025 saying, breaking news. And we got thousands of views. Thousands of views. Well, when November came around, and it was now national news, American Experiment, we decided to put it out again and tag a few of our friends, like Christopher Rufo, Libs of TikTok, who then retweeted it. Christopher Rufo, what? Libs of TikTok, Minnesota AG was in on it. And then guess who picked it up? Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Outright criminal fraud. That tweet now has 47 million views. 47 million views. The world knows about this, and it's all because of investigative reporting that is being done by groups like American Experiment, and we're darn proud of our participation in exposing this fraud. We're just a little irked about it being a little late. So now, I've got magazines out there. I'm going to talk about what's in the magazine. I'm going to talk about our polling. And we got this Thinking Minnesota magazine. It comes out 4 times a year, and each one has polling data. And what we do is talk about the issues that are most important to Minnesotans. So we did polling in September of 2025, early September. So all of the numbers I'm going to show you are before the national explosion. So we imagine that these numbers are probably a lot higher by now. So we asked awareness. Are people paying attention to this? 41% said yeah, they knew about it. 27% could name Feeding Our Future in an open-ended question. Can you name one of the frauds? 27% of people came up with Feeding Our Future. That's a pretty big number there. And then 52% could talk about the housing stabilization, which had really just come out. So, do people care about this? 67% said they care. 38% say they care. They're very concerned about it. So Minnesotans, even before the national blow-up, are aware of it and they're concerned about it. Then this one stunned us. 32% think Minnesota has more fraud than other states. How many of you think Minnesota has more than other states? The answer is yes. This state has a fraud. It has a huge fraud, but it is finally coming to. So we asked about blame on this. Have these people done enough to stop the fraud? 56% said no on Governor Walz, 55% said no on Keith Ellison. And now specific factors. The numbers don't add up to 100%. I'm trying to figure out why. But the question was, what's the biggest factor here? And I think they're right on with people trying to exploit the system. 50%, weak internal controls. You know that's what it was. It is Minnesotans getting say Minnesota nice and saying let's get the money out, let's help people, and then having no guardrails, no concern about following up and seeing is the money actually being used. So I think that one's perfect. The next two blow me away: corruption and kickbacks and political favoritism. 29 and 19. What these numbers mean is that the state legislature in Minnesota created these programs, the governor and his staff implemented them, and all the money was stolen. Not all of it, but a lot of the money was stolen, and a big percentage of Minnesotans believe it was on purpose. It was on purpose. That is a stunning revelation. And I think with all the national news, I think those numbers are probably even higher now. Can you believe that our government, our state legislature, would deliberately set up systems to rip off people to support various groups? That's stunning to me. I just unheard of. So, but that's what Minnesotans are thinking.
It's hot.
Okay. Then 50% of respondents said fraud would be a major factor in their determination on voting for governor. 50%.
What was your sample?
It is 500 registered voters with a plus or minus.
Randomly selected?
Yeah, randomly using cell phones and landlines, and it's got a plus or minus of like 4.5%, but done by a reputable polling center out of South Carolina. So 50% say that that's going to matter in their vote for governor, and then of course this is before the national deal. But you got to go back. People think it's on purpose. It's a national scandal. How many people have lost their jobs or been fired over this? None. How many? No, there are big people who've gone to jail, but none. Zero. Nobody has gone to jail over that. Has been thrown out of a job or blamed or anything like that. But wait. There's one person who just got a notice that his contract will not be renewed.
Yeah.
Love that flag, Tim. Love that flag. So, we've got to, I'm getting to the golden turkey. Yes, I will. All right. So what to do about it? You know, the answer is elections. Our polling came up with this. The main one, the two that I want to talk about, the top one, independent office of the Inspector General, 72% want that. That's where, and there would be somebody that could talk to all of the agencies and put them all together, because a lot of this fraud went over agencies and people not talking to each other, and a governor and his agencies unwilling to even look. So this would have done. It passed the Minnesota State Senate 60-7, totally bipartisan. It passed the Minnesota House Committee, but as time was running out, it needed a 2/3 vote to be on the floor, and they only got 4 Democrats. All the rest of them voted no. So you need to be asking your legislators. There's going to be decisions made in the 2026 legislature and the governor and elections. So what can we do? That is what we are needing to do. So we have been proud of our efforts to be at the top of the fraud chain, and we will continue to do that. We had our guy in Washington at the Oversight Committee. So what can you do? Well, I'd like you to join us. I'd like you to join. You're obviously here at the Becker County Republicans. You're participating in the electoral policy. Now I want you to participate in the policy side of it, so that you can be educated and aware and talk to your legislators. You can talk to your school board members, city council, county commissioners. Then you can talk to your friends, your neighbors, your frenemies about these issues, because it's important to be not just partisan, but also knowledgeable. And we at American Experiment can provide a lot of that knowledge if you're just willing to join us. So, we have an email list, 200,000 names long. And this is an effective email list, meaning that they don't bounce back. When we get bounce backs, they take off. You can join, if you aren't getting emails from us, I'd like you to fill out one of these cards and give it to me tonight. We send a couple of emails a week. We don't sell the list. Kelly and Randy have them in the back as well. I will hang around while your meeting is going. I'll walk through and do that type of stuff. We have a website, 3 million views a year with great content, short, 400, 600, 800 words, quick reads, and then we're on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, all over that type of stuff. Then we have our magazine, Thinking Minnesota. It comes out 4 times a year. You used to get it for free. It's a really good magazine. We went to a subscription model about 8-10 months ago. There is an envelope in there. If you want to get it at your home, we ask for a minimum contribution of $35, and you can fill that out and get that back in. But there are free ones here tonight, and I have a few extras. So if you want extras to give to family, friends, neighbors, frenemies, there you go. Pass a couple back that way.
That's what makes them enemies.
Then we do a podcast every Tuesday. If you do podcasts, they're great. They run about an hour. They talk about the issues of the day. And attending an event. I mentioned the events that we do, but we also have summer tour. This last summer tour, was called Minnesota Doge. And what we did is we went through the entire Minnesota budget. You know, they've got a $2 billion deficit that they're facing. Legislators are gonna either have to cut $2 billion or do revenue enhancements. Anybody know what revenue enhancements? Tax increases. So, you need to be aware of that. Then, obviously, we are a 100% donor sponsored organization. More than 10,000 Minnesotans support us with financial contributions every year. I even have some donor envelopes, and I know there are some donors in the room, and I thank you very, very much. I won't call you out today, but know that I appreciate you. Know that I appreciate you very, very much. So, I mentioned earlier, I think, I might not have, that I didn't mention this. We believe that we are one of, if not the most effective policy organization in Minnesota. We are on the ground every day impacting Minnesotans. And the legislature, school boards, city councils, you name it, we are out there doing that. And I can say that, yeah, we get 3 million hits on our website, and we got 200,000 names on our email list, but how do you really know if you're effective? You're not really effective if you are just being debated or if your opponents are just ignoring you. But you know you're effective when your opponents firebomb your offices and burn them to the ground. In January of 2024, we suffered an arson attack along with the Upper Midwest Law Center and Take Charge, Kevin Walz's organization. And you know you're effective when your opponents take it out on you in the middle of the night and burn your offices to the ground. So, I'm going to conclude with why. I mentioned you're involved in the political process, great. But get involved in the policy process too. It's a joint effort. And it's a joint effort. Why do we at American Experiment, what are we really doing at American Experiment? We're fighting for Minnesota because we believe Minnesota is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
You believe Minnesota? Thank you.
Yeah.
If you believe it, keep doing what you're doing here and join us on the policy side. Fill out my card, fill out my contribution envelope, grab a magazine, give it to a friend, and join American Experiment, and you will not be disappointed. I don't know how long it will. How much do we have?
Well,
I wanna ask one.
Okay.
I've seen on Facebook that you have for school choice and the caucus.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. We are making a caucus effort. Remember, we are a nonpartisan organization, so if you're going to the Democrat caucuses, we're speaking to you too. We want to see education savings accounts in the Minnesota Republican platform and the Democrat platform. We believe it's time to put money in the pockets of parents, and you can go to our website or see online and click and become a precinct leader, passing a resolution at precinct caucuses that will come to the Becker County Republicans and then go to the CD7, CD8, and then to the state convention. We want to see a change, and we want to see the resolution process at the Republican Party work, because I don't know what you have all seen, but I've seen it be a catastrophe. We want to see it be done right. Maybe use it as an example of, hey, this is how you get a proposal passed starting at precinct caucuses.
One more thing.
Yeah.
One more. Is there any chance you could tell us in lifetime how many people have been illegals, have been deported?
No, we are a Minnesota-based think tank focusing on Minnesota issues. Now, obviously that impacts Minnesota.
I think so.
But no, we are not. What we're doing is highlighting illegals in Minnesota. But I'm getting a hook here.
You know, does American Experiment know how it can stop fraud with one signature?
It's there.
All it takes is one signature by Trump to eliminate 1115 waivers in Minnesota, and all the fraud would go away. The vast majority of fraud hasn't even been looked at. That's PMAP.
All right.
This state has 3, it had 4, but UCare got caught, and they're now bankrupt. But they funnel all the money through the state, and those 3, we pay more in Medicaid money than any other state.
Yeah.
The only one that beats us is Washington, D.C. And we funnel that where the state splits the money with these three MCOs. And it's a bundle of money that's been going on since 2005. But I haven't heard the American Experiment or anybody else talk about how it can be shut off with the stroke of a pen. Shut off the 1115 waivers and the fraud goes away.
Dr. Bob is your first convert.
I know, he's been a contributor, he's been a major contributor to American Experiment. I definitely know Dr. Bob. Who needs cards?